Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Sesternino back. It's day 9, the final day of our preseason two-a-days as we are so close to the Survivor 47 premiere. Back here with a man who has talked to them all. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Rob, I am cuckoo for Tuku and this entire cast in general. I can't believe it. We've come to the end of the road, and the good news, Survivor fans, is by the end of this, you'll have everything you need to know about these castaways, and you only have to wait, what, like 5 days to
Yeah.
actually see their feet hit the sand?
I don't know, Mike, you haven't asked me for my Survivor hot take,
Yeah, what's
but
yours? Well, I feel like you've given plenty. I don't know. I would have
many
put words
over
in
the
your mouth and
years.
said the hot take from the summer of they don't need to replace the tribal council set
They
every
don't.
season.
That was a great take. Okay. But maybe this is a bit of a hot take of was a great preseason. This was like a good length of time. Honestly, I mean, a week would be cutting it close, but I think that they could do it like on, drop the cast the 10 days before, like the Monday before a premiere Wednesday. So I don't think you need all that preseason. I think you just, hey, it's out there, home stretch, like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think much like the new era game proper, you want to find that middle ground, right? You don't want it to be a week where everyone, ourselves included, are rushing to find out about these contestants. But yeah, admittedly,
You
sometimes
lose momentum too.
the momentum does run out a little bit. The plane perhaps starts to, peter out in terms of altitude as we'll get into more flight puns.
Wait, I thought that was age altitude.
Age is just a number. Altitude's just a number, as is momentum and energy levels. But happy to keep up the momentum this entire season. We've got quite a close here, Rob. We've got Tiyana. We've got
Big
TK.
finish. Tiyana and TK.
Yeah, two people that I would honestly say could be viable winner candidates for people out there who are jumping into their drafts.
Yeah, two really interesting people to hear from. Okay, so first up, Tiyana. We have been talking about her a little bit in these days leading up to it. First, native-born Hawaiian to appear on the show. Tell us a little bit more about Tiyana.
Yes, so Tiyana is 27 years old. She's from Aiea, Hawaii. She is a flight attendant. The whole native-born Hawaiian thing, it's been clarified to me. There's a little bit of an asterisk on that because I do believe
What?
Laura Moret, I think, was born in Hawaii. I think also Brad or I think
Brad Culpepper?
no, Brad Verata. I don't know if they were born in Hawaii or if they are
Okay,
Hawaiian,
look,
but
with these firsts, there's a Hawaiian here. We're excited.
very much so.
Aloha.
Yeah, because Tiyana definitely brings that island energy to a very different island, but don't get it twisted. She is someone that is also willing to play a game. She will lay those flowers onto you as she slips that knife into your back.
All right, so let's check out Mike's interview with Tiyana, and we'll come back and we will give our thoughts on Tiyana.
Well, let's start by having you give me your name, your age, where you're from, and what you do.
So my name is Tiyana. I am born and raised on the island of Oahu. I am a flight attendant right now, and I am just stoked as hell to be here. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I feel like that needed to be said. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna congratulate you because I believe you are the first native-born Hawaiian to compete on Survivor. How does that feel?
I absolutely am, and that there's the amount of pride that comes from just that statement alone is just truly out of this world. Like, I am so excited to put on. So obviously, I'm doing it for my family, for the island, but there's just an entire population of people that have not been able to be represented in Survivor, and I'm just so excited to just break that wall and just like go for it. Absolutely show that we're more than just the Aloha spirit. We are absolutely like cutthroat, tenacious, all of those things all wrapped up into one. So I'm so excited.
So let's talk about what brought you out from one island to another. Talk to me about your history watching Survivor and what is the journey that has led to you being in front of me today?
Oh, absolutely. I feel as if Survivor just encompasses all of my personalities that are locked into my own entire spirit. Like the cutthroatness. Oh, wow. All of a sudden we're nice. The social game, the adventure, the pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, the blind sides, the shocking surprises. Everything about Survivor, those aspects just truly resonate. It's almost like I was looking at a mirror, but it was a game. It is just the craziest feeling. And I felt like I honestly was I went through 2 months of very, very intense flight attendant training. It was by far the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life
Hmm.
because really, really briefly, you had to pass every test, and we were tested about every day with a 90 or above. And if we went below a 90, we had to retake that test, but you only got one redo for the entire 2 months. So if you scored below a 90 again, you were cut, like you were out. It was so cutthroat.
Wow.
And you would come the next morning and there would just be an empty seat and the name tag would be away of someone that you barely even got to know. And then they were just gone. Like it was that cutthroat. And right after I finished that and I succeeded in becoming a flight attendant, I was like, I can fucking do anything. Like, what do I want to do? What do I absolutely with my deepest heart and soul, what do I want to do? And I'm like, I want to be on Survivor. So I set up a tripod in my backyard with like basically this nature scene in the back, and I just spoke and yelled at a camera for about 3 minutes, and here we are.
Oh my God. Well, looking back into Survivor history, like we've talked about, you are one of a kind, but give me one winner and one non winner who you identify with the most.
Okay, definitely. I think that I feel like a lot of women are going to say this, but I think I identify a lot with Parvati because I want to use every single part of like every single part of the aspects that make me me. She used her sensuality. She was cutthroat. She was smart, intelligent. She was a baller at challenges, which I feel like I can do without being too out there where it's a threat, but I could also hold my own when it comes to physical challenges and some puzzles and things like that. And I would say, oh, a non-winner. This is really, really recent, but I feel like she spoke to my heart. I would say Tiff. She just got voted out
Ooh.
before I came on to the island. And so I don't even know who wins season 46 out here. But I think that Tiff is probably one of the most bubbly and vivacious people. And I felt that she was real. Like, there's a lot of
Mm.
people who put on for a camera, but I think that for me, I know that I want my personality, my real personality to shine through. And I don't want to just be this out of the box character if that's not what I'm feeling in the moment. But she was able to give us everything. So I really resonate with her character as well.
What is your prep been like for this? Because I would imagine as a flight attendant, you are quite literally all over the place. What was it like to get ready for the adventure of a lifetime on top of that?
Oh my gosh, it was the absolute hardest thing to keep my mouth shut because I am constantly like there's just people all around me at all
Mm.
times. Either my coworkers are constantly evolving and changing since I've only been in for about 2 years, so I'm on reserve. So my crew constantly changes. It's just seeing all these people randomly they would talk about their favorite show and they were talking about Survivor. And I had to just sit there and be like, I love that show too. And just basically just squeeze all of my muscles and try my best not to scream in the galley. But it was pretty hard to prep because obviously being all over the place, there's different time zones, your body's constantly getting adjusted to it. I worked out as much as I possibly could on my grip strength and also my core, and I would just do a whole bunch of holds, like plank holds, even right now. No one knows this obviously because I'm not making a bunch of sounds in my tent, but I'm holding plank holds just as far as I can go in my tent as just to mentally prepare for that fatigue and that muscle exposure and all of those things for the challenges ahead. So even right now, I'm training, but no one knows that I'm training.
What would you say is your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite that you're bringing into the game?
I honestly am going to answer that with saying that it's going to be one and the same. So, my
Mm.
biggest power is my personality. I've been told by a lot of people that my personality is very magnetic. They have opened up to me really easily. They kind of just offer up information about themselves, even if we just met. And I love that. That is one of my favorite parts about what makes me me. However, I think that's also going to be my biggest kryptonite because let's say I make it to the merge, which I'm winning this whole thing. I'm just manifesting that right now. But once we make it to the merge, I think it's going to be really difficult to not be a Kelly. Like everyone wanted to work with Kelly. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect and awesome like Kelly. I'm just saying that I know that I
Don't
can.
sell yourself short. You're going to be the winner of Survivor.
You're so right. What am I doing? What am I doing out here? I feel like I am going to have a hard time being an asshole and being someone that has to cut ties because I know that I'll bond with them on such a deep emotional level. And so I think that's also going to be my kryptonite is being able to separate emotion from the game. And that's all what Survivor is about, honestly.
Well, let's talk about some of those people that you're going to have to do that to. I mean, I imagine you are vibing people out right now as you have nothing to do but do plank holds in anticipation for the game. Who are some people that you're getting good vibes from that you think, okay, best case scenario, we touch down on the beach day one. This is my ride or die.
Ooh, that's a great question. We unfortunately, I don't know any names. I can
That's
only
okay.
describe
Describe them.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only describe them to
Paint a
you.
picture.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do a little like Picasso little moment for you guys, but I think that someone that's gonna be my greatest ally is gonna have to be the biggest dude out there. I kind of see myself at like becoming a good alliance with the big dogs because those are usually the ones that everyone wants as a target post merge. And so I kind of want to use them as a shield in order to get farther in the game. So if I'm still in a good alliance with them, at least they'll always be like, oh, look, this person's a target, this person's a target. And I kind of just want to be the one that's kind of the puppet master. But I feel like the biggest dudes that I've been seeing are the black guy with the twists and the white guy that's like I would say he was about 6'2", and he has dark hair and he kind of looks like he's been in the military before, honestly. He's like ridiculously in shape. So I kind of want to roll with the big dogs, and that's my whole thing is that I want to show Hawaii can roll with big dogs, and those are the biggest dogs. I want to pick the biggest dogs on my team.
Well, what about on the other side of things? Who do you not want to roll with here? Who's not part of your flight crew for this 26-day voyage?
Great question. Who will be getting immediately evacuated from the from the flight deck is going to have to be it's gonna have to be there's this one um girl who I overheard that she needed a specific type of towel or something, and it kind of seems like she's been a little bit high maintenance this whole time. And so I think that my personality doesn't vibe with someone that's very high maintenance. And so I think that she would have to be immediately we'd have to bust a slide and she'd have to slide down in an aircraft, if you will. That would be my biggest explanation there. Evacuate it immediately.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, I would imagine your experience in that service industry must go so far for you, at least prospectively, in Survivor. What are you planning to bring from your day to day into the game?
I think I'm definitely gonna bring my chameleonness. I almost want to be someone that everyone sees like, oh, she's just chill, she's vibing. And also, you know what? I'm just gonna hold on, break down my strategy because it does play into part what I do every day for a living. My whole strategy in this game is that I want to be that person that everyone feels really comfortable with, that feels, oh, warm hugs, because I want to just tell them, oh, born and raised in Hawaii. And I want their own conceptions and their own analysis of what that means to come into play because I know that a lot of people are not going to think, oh, she's from Hawaii. Oh, cutthroat, fast paced environment. No, none of those things are true. But I want them to almost say it in their own head without me saying, oh, I'm chill, I'm vibing. I want them to see me as a chill vibe person here for the adventure and then slowly but surely just drop little bombs like and use my relationships with them and be like, "Hmm, you know what? Jeremy's kind of acting kind of weird today." But I mean, what do I know? And I would just leave it like that and just be like, "But that's also not my place." And I would just like leave the little trinkets in people's brains and watch them slowly explode. So that I think plays a part of what I do day to day because I'm constantly being exposed to strangers. I have to
Mm.
pretend like I like people all the time in customer service. That is not a secret. I have to be incredibly nice to people who are mean and rude and people who seem to have dropped their brain outside of the aircraft. I have to do all of those things and I have to make it believable that they are my bestie for the restie, right? I
Mm.
have to make it believable. So that is something that I think I'm going to bring into this game is that I can convince anyone that I like them until like aloha lei, rip the layoff. Once we're done, aloha lei, rip the layoff. Yeah.
Well, speaking of trinkets, how are you approaching idols and advantages? Are you going to be hungry for those? Are you, trying to walk tenderfoot around them?
Oh, I'm absolutely going to be quenched for them. I am going to be famished for them. don't see myself ever telling someone that I have an idol at all because as we can see in the past, whenever you've done that, it's just too juicy of a secret. And I know that we're out there and sometimes we're just staring at the ocean. There's no way that someone is just going to be like, I think I'm going to keep Tiana's secret. Like, I think her game means a little bit more than mine. We're all trying to win this game for $1 million. So if I win that freaking, if I get that idol, I am shoving it directly into my pocket, directly into my underwear, wherever it needs to go, whatever crevice can hide it, and I'm not telling a single soul. I am only gonna tell the producers when I'm sitting on a rock and talking into the camera. That is the only people that will ever know.
You mentioned Tiffany. What would you say is the biggest thing you're taking from Survivor 45 and 46 that you plan on incorporating into your game in Survivor 47?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. I would say that I think the biggest thing that I'm taking is that I don't know anything, and I think that's gonna be my advantage. I think when people start to feel like they know everything and they're, like, prepared and they're at the top, they're the king, they're the queen, whatever it may be, I don't think that they're ready for any sort of twists and turns and all those types of things, but I feel like after watching season 45 and a part of season 46, nothing this new era of Survivor is so fast, it's so cutthroat, it's so in your face, and the moment that you take your gas off the gas off the pedal? Can I even speak right now? Oh my
You're
god.
not going to be driving for 26 days. It's
Yeah.
okay if you mix up the metaphor.
Yeah, I don't need the background of that. I feel like the moment that you take your foot off the gas is the moment where that's where you get blindsided, and that's where you just feel when you feel too confident, that's almost when you have to be the most paranoid. So, I feel like my ability to be open-minded and to just, like, let everything come into me like a funnel instead of closing off to certain people or closing off this way, I think I just wanna take in everything all at once, and I can do that for about 26 days. It's gonna be overwhelming as hell, but I'm gonna do it.
What would you say is your most controversial Survivor opinion? Your hottest take about a season, a player, the show in general?
Ooh, definitely. I'm so sorry. I keep coming back into my background of season 46. It's so ingrained because I've also listened to the podcast. So
Mhm.
after every single episode, I listen to the podcast. So it's just deeply ingrained in my brain. Season 46, when Liz absolutely pops off at Q because she didn't get to go to Applebee's. A lot of the players were, and I know that I wasn't on that beach, so I get that. I understand. However, in my opinion, as an audience member, she had no right, it just screamed entitlement to me, unfortunately. I
Hmm.
did not see it as, "Oh, she hasn't eaten in X amount of days, she's allergic to a lot of things," like, I'm very much someone that, like, you know what you're getting into when you come on Survivor. Obviously, you don't know what starvation is, but if you're allergic to everything on that island, you knew you weren't gonna eat for, like, however many days until there was a reward, and then to put it on Q after writing his name down, I agreed with Q, and this whole time I've been, like, kind of anti-Q because he's been going off the rails. However, that one scene where everyone was like, "Damn, that's cold, that's unfortunate," like, I wouldn't bring someone on a reward if they wrote my name down unless I was trying to reconcile something, but it doesn't seem like they're trying to do that. And so I felt like her screaming at him and being like, "You messed up everything. Like this was my move." Just because you went to Applebee's with your daughter every Wednesday or every week, like does not mean that, and then everyone knew that, does not mean that I should get rewarded. Like for example, I love gomate at home. I love ramen. If there's a ramen challenge, I'm gonna work hard as hell to get it. But if someone doesn't pick me, that's the name of the game. I'm not gonna pop off at you because I didn't get my ramen, you know?
Well,
That's
last
just
thing I
my
want
personal.
Yeah. Well, last thing I want to ask, speaking of rewards, and maybe this will be as delicious as a bowl of ramen for you. If you could pick a celebrity or a fictional character to bring out for a loved one's visit, who are you taking and why?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I honestly feel like if I were to have a fictional character or celebrity, I would personally wanna take out I would wanna take out Black Widow from Marvel. I think that she would just be someone that I could pick the brain of strategically. She's someone that I would also enjoy being around because she seems like she's a cool chick, you know? I feel like she seems like she knows what the frick is going on at all times, and I think I could pick her brain. I feel like we'd vibe very well. I think that she would be ready for a joke or two from me, and I think that she also is someone that would be a badass in challenges because of her mobility and her strength. So if anything, we could do a little obstacle course and she could train train me on the side without anyone being able to see me, and then we could do that. You know what I mean? So I feel like that would just be something that I would be stoked to share with Black Widow.
Yeah, I mean, she could kill that endurance challenge where, she's able to hold that pose, right? Like, she'd
Oh,
kill those endurance challenges.
easily. There has to be some sort of way to maneuver your fingernails or maneuver something, and then she could crack the code for me easily.
There we go. Well, I'm excited for your game to take flight, as it were. I mean, it seems like you have such a winning personality. On top of, though, you know what needs to be done to get the job done. So I am so excited to have you join, the Survivor Winners Club by the end of it all,
Absolutely.
and get your wings. I'm so excited to see what you're going to bring to this, and this was such a great time getting to chat with you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for your time, and I am so thankful for this entire experience. But guess what? The first ever Native Hawaiian born and raised in Hawaii, last statement is going to be season 47 Soul Survivor. You can take that to the freaking bank. First class, actually. Take it to first class.
You got it. Well, I'm so looking forward to seeing what you bring to the beats. Best of luck with, the remaining time you have. I'm sure the anticipation is building, but I can't wait to see what happens once your feet hit the sand. Thanks so much again.
No, thank you so much.
All right, there you go, Tiyana, and a lot to like here.
A lot to like about Tiyana. I mean, she keeps talking about vibes, particularly when it comes to her perception, and you can really tell that. And I think we talked about this with Rachel, Rob. I think there is this interesting benefit to the fact that Tiyana has been through this specific process before. Again, that experience kind of goes away once she actually touches down and Jeff says, "Welcome to Survivor." But I think as Rachel has kind of expressed, and she talks about this in her 1 minute video, this does feel like her season. And even just between the time that I talked to her back in 45 versus 47, she does seem a lot calmer, a lot more composed, and I think in a better headspace to take on the game.
So you interviewed Tiyana before.
I do, yeah. I talked to the alternates that are out there at the time.
How many alternates are you sitting on, Mike?
There's a male and there's a female one, though. For 45, Austin was already a part of the cast.
No, I mean in total. There's like 9 other potential survivors that you know about that the world doesn't know about. Like
I'm taking that to my deathbed.
you can't tell us the number, how many there are?
Nope.
Is it double digits?
No, it's not double digits.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Tiyana seems very good. Seems like Tiyana has everything that you would want. Magnetic personality. She's practicing plank holds when nobody else is watching. So
Isn't that the motto? Do plank holds like nobody's watching?
I think so. So I think everybody's going to want to work with her. But the thing that I come back to, especially so much in the new era, and she's going to be good in the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
How much are people going to say like, okay, well, got to get rid of her?
That's the thing, is that I do feel like, unfortunately for Tiyana, she's going to be kind of living in the shadow of some of the players from the season that she would have been on in a different universe. She mentions Kelly, but I also think if I were a player out there, I would see a lot of D in Diana, if you will, where again, this is somebody who is athletic. She was a D1 volleyball player. She is somebody who has a lot of interpersonal skills. I say this time and time again, Rob. I think the number one skill set that is vital to a good Survivor game is service experience, as Tiyana vocalizes so well, as this ability to kind of put on a face and deal with all these types of people that are coming to you in their worst states with their own respective issues. And so I think Tiyana has such a fantastic skill set. And we can tell from talking with the other cast as well that a lot of people are really vibing with her too. Mm-hmm. But it's going to come down to, will there eventually be a point where people will look at her and say, okay, I was saying aloha initially to welcome you into my alliance, but now I might have to say aloha the other way to say goodbye to you.
Yeah, she seems like too perfect. That's the thing that's sort of the concern. We talked about this with a lot of players here in the new era. Now, look, things could potentially break differently where there are game circumstances that for whatever reason people say, okay, well, we don't have to worry about her. She has no power. She's not viable to be a winner. But you certainly also could see the world where, much like Tiffany that she talked about, Tiffany through much of the season looked like, okay, she was the person to beat. And even in talking with these different players, like in the post-game interviews, that I think that there was a sense from a lot of the players like, okay, we got to get rid of Tiffany. We got to take out Tiffany. And so like, I definitely could see Tiyana have that. And I do wonder if now there'll be a point and this is something that I think that's so fun about Survivor, where I feel like that even in like the hot take questions, a lot of the players seem to be having sort of these same meta conclusions that they're reaching. And so that eventually somebody that is too perfect is going to eventually win, you know?
I do find that interesting because, John Lovett's hot take, as a reminder, was basically like, I want to change the narrative that you don't need to make big moves for the resume. Let's not make the resume the be all end all of a win. And we talked about at the time, like, that's great on paper, but can you rebuild the house from within? But if enough people in the season are kind of saying the same things, as we get into a little bit with our next interview as well with TK, of like, stop turning on your number one allies, stop making moves early, we could actually see a bit of a reversion to a more conservative style of gameplay.
Yeah, but if everybody's doing that, the person that zigs when everybody else zags is going to be the person who gets the most out of it.
Yeah, so it's a really salient point you bring up about Tiffany, because also, again, to remind people about timing, they went out to play right after Tiffany was voted out. And so what's also fresh in their mind was that scene from like the Tevin Boot episode, right? When everyone kind of gathers around even Q and is like, wow, Tiffany's a big threat. We've got to get rid of her. And again, I imagine once these players immerse themselves within their own season, I don't know how much they're going to remember upon past seasons, but I think there's a non-zero chance that they might be a similar conversation around Tiyana. But I guess the good news is, and we'll even get into this with our next person, that there is a fair shot that there will be so many of those types of people in the post-merge game that she can almost nestle herself, still considered one of those threats within the other threats, so that like she's the last threat standing.
It's a very stacked cast. She talked about who she's vibing with, the big guys, specifically TK is somebody that she's vibing with in her tribe. We'll talk about him next. She likes the in-shape military guy. Who's that?
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Is that Sam?
I think Sam might be the other like big buff dude. I think Saul has a little bit of athleticism to him as well, but I was trying to figure out heights, especially now that we have the cast
I don't know if
photo.
he's the military guy.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it is Sam, because Sam has a little bit of that crew
buzz
cut, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine, and that's something I think certainly that we can really piece together is like, and this will be something we might talk about with TK, is that it looks like TK and Sam and Saul to a certain extent are kind of being perceived as like the big guys this season, which works both for and against them.
Okay. Doesn't like the high maintenance girl. This wasn't Asia, right?
I don't know. We shall see.
Asia, were you asking for the special towels?
Listen,
I don't think it was.
Honestly, I understand it. You're not going to get any towels for the next month. Give me all the fluffiest towels you could possibly get. Strike while the iron is hot, as we see in that season 47 preview. We talked about this before.
I find it hard to believe, though, Mike. Somebody's at Ponderosa like, no, not those towels.
Yeah, but like,
bring me the good towels.
People get cast on this show for a reason.
I guess
Rob.
so.
Those are the types of personalities you want on reality TV. We mentioned it before, but it bears repeating again. Tiyana is a flight attendant. Call her Tiyana Bird, if you will, much like a beloved former flight attendant. But she wants to become a pilot. And so you got to imagine this might be one of the tightest duos to at least start off the season, considering just the
metaphors write themselves of like, when this game started, I was back giving out drinks, talking to everybody, helping people find their seat, but now I'm flying the plane.
Well, that's the thing, is that when it comes to her and Sue, when will it become a pilots and passenger situation, if you will, where it's like one of them is leading the charge too much, and so the other one is going to take the lead? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's got to be such an interesting conversation. And much like we had a moment where Sifu like opened for Jay Maya on one of her concerts, look out for when Tiyana moves
and co-pilot.
moves across the country to go to Sue's flight school at some point following the season.
Okay, all right. There's Tiyana. Mike, we still have one last person to talk about. We've talked about several teen players. We've got one last person to talk about. We're going to talk about TK when we come back right after this. Okay, Mike, here's TK, a.k.a. Taryn.
Taryn finally shows up on Survivor.
Wow, we have a Taryn and an Asia on this cast?
Do you think, well, listen, we might talk about the fact that there could be a TK-Asia connection. It could make even a stronger bond if he says his name is Taryn.
Yes. Okay. All right. Tell us a little bit about TK before we hear from him himself.
Yeah, Taryn Foster, but you can call him TK. He is 31 years old from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and he is an athlete marketing manager. He helps serve as the middleman between various NFL athletes and brands, sponsorships, etc.
Okay. All right. Should be a good one. Let's listen to TK and come back and talk about how he's going to do after this.
Why don't you start with something nice and easy? Give me your name, age, and occupation.
Yeah, so my actual name is Taryn. I go by TK. I'm gonna go by TK on the show. I'm 31 and I'm a marketing manager with the NFL Players Association. So I do all the deals you see NFL players doing off the field. I'm the one brokering those deals.
I mean, I would imagine negotiating and making deals with some pretty ego-driven personalities makes you
Yes.
pretty damn good for the game of Survivor, no?
Absolutely. Very transitional skills for sure. I deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And I think it will make it a little bit easier because we deal with so many different types of personalities and people from different backgrounds every day. So just being able to have those conversations, candid conversations, and also be able to handhold sometimes if you need to. I think all that'll just be a really good asset for me, as far as bringing it to the game.
Well, yeah, let's talk about what brings you from, doing shoe negotiations to rice negotiations on Survivor. What's your history with watching the show and what made you decide to go from negotiating with players to becoming a player yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say it's actually funny. I didn't know much about the show until COVID hit a couple years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago now. One of my colleagues told me about it, and he was an old boss of mine, and he's like, "Hey, you should watch Survivor." And I was like, "That just doesn't sound like something I would watch." You know what I mean? I didn't know anything about it at the time. And I just remember I ended up moving to LA because we went fully remote at my job, and I moved to LA from Prince George's County, Maryland. And once I got to LA, I just said, I'm going to put this on. Everything shut down. Like, let me just see what's going on. And I started binge watching the show, and I fell in love with it from the very first episode. I started watching on Netflix, which I believe was like season 32 or something like that. And I just told myself one day, I was just sitting there and said, hey, I think I can do this. Like, I really want to do it. And I don't know. I like challenges in life. My entire life has been filled with all types of adversity. So anything that just gives me a chance to feel alive and feel like I'm doing something that's challenging myself mentally, physically, I want to do it. So
Talk to me more at that. What's one life experience that you feel like has prepared you the most for what you're about to undergo?
I can tell you a few. I feel like my
Please.
life in general, just kind of it's very linear on how it built me to this point. So even from the age of 2, I just feel like I've been beating the odds my whole life. So from the age of 2, like my dad actually went to prison, so he wasn't in my life, so it's just me and my mom. And obviously, we all are aware of statistics that are associated with kids who don't have fathers in the home. So being in different backgrounds, certain situations, I was able to build myself out of that, go to college. But prior to that, I was a huge like football is my only passion in life. I've played
Mm.
football majority of my life. But once I got to about, I'd say 14 years old, 15 years old in high school, I was in 2 days of camp. And I started feeling like really lethargic and not myself at one point. And long story short, I ended up going to the hospital to get checked on, and I had 50% kidney failure. I had a kidney disease I was not aware of, and battled it for years. Was told I wasn't going to make it by multiple different doctors.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
yeah, was on steroids and 15 pills a day and had to go to the hospital 5 times a week. I even lived in the intensive care unit for almost 2 months. So couldn't leave the floor. Like, I mean, one floor for so being here for a couple of days is easy because I was on one floor for basically 2 months, being told that I wasn't gonna make it. So I took what they said and said that's not my plans. And I fought that. And after a couple years of battling that, I was able to go in full remission there, and told myself, since I can't play football anymore, which is what the doctors told me I couldn't play anymore, I said, in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to be a part of the professional football league if I can't play. And I went to college as a sports management major. All my professors basically told me 70% of the kids who study sports management in Towson end up in life insurance and don't end up in professional sports at all. Maybe about 3% end up in professional sports. And I'm looking at it as one African American kid in a predominantly white institution. So I'm in classes full of 35 kids, and I'm maybe the one black kid in the class. There's no way I'm thinking like that's going to be me who ends up in professional sports. But that's just how my mind works. And I said, I'm going to show them that I can. And my first job out of school, internship, Players Association, biggest football union in the world, and been working there ever since. So my whole life is just defying the odds. So I feel like this is another opportunity to do it.
Hell yeah. Well, I know that you're a recent convert to Survivor, but if I were to ask you to give me one winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most from any previous Survivor season, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I really love. I'll say my all-time favorite player is Tony. I just think
Mm.
that he just didn't care what anybody thought. He went out there to like live in the moment, do his thing. He didn't really care if people didn't like what I mean, he's making spy shacks and stuff. Like who does that? Like, you know what I mean? So honestly, I don't know if I'll necessarily play all the way like that, but I feel like he just enjoyed the moment, and I'm big on enjoying the moment. I'd say recently, I want to say his name was Caleb.
Mm.
Caleb was a very like social player, but he was also a pretty physical player as well. I liked his game, but I just feel like obviously he didn't make it, he didn't win it. But I think at the end of the day, you just got to be a little bit more assertive. And at some points, he wasn't necessarily as assertive as he should have been. He played passive towards the end, and I don't want that to be a part of my game. So I want to control everything that's going to happen at the end of the day.
Well, let's do a little bit of a Survivor Combine right now, as it were. What would you say is your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite that you are bringing into this game?
That's a good one. I think my social game is honestly going to be my biggest superpower.
Hmm.
Again, like we talked, that's just me naturally. Like I can get along with anybody in the world. I don't care where you put me. I mean, even in college, I used to intentionally change my roommates every semester just to meet new people, new types of people, and I never knew who those people were going to be coming in, and I would just meet new people all the time. So I'm really comfortable with that. I think the biggest kryptonite for me is probably going to be the aspect of I think the puzzles are gonna kill me at the end of the day. I'm not a big puzzle guy at all. Also, I think just living in general, I'm not the biggest outdoorsy person in the world. So I think just having to adjust to having all these different critters and creatures and things like that running around may mess with me a little bit mentally, but I'll have to get by that and just make sure I keep my head in the game. But yeah, I've already seen a couple things out here that's like, okay, wait a minute, what's that crawling out of the ground right there? Like, so
How
definitely
are you?
something I'm get ready.
How are you hoping to be perceived in this game? I mean, you talk about sort of having this like natural athleticism, which might scream challenge beast. Is that something you're trying to like steer into or against?
That's a good question. I've been trying to figure that out. I really think that I want to be genuine to myself. I don't see myself as one of the players. I've seen a couple players in years past who like almost dial down how effective they are in challenges just so they don't think like they're the biggest. I'm too competitive to do that. So I think at the end of the day, like if I'm doing something, I want to win. So I don't care if people think I'm a challenge beast or not. I think at that point, I land on my superpower, and I just use my social game to save me in those situations where people might see me as a physical threat. But I think my social game will be able to compensate for for that being, one of my challenges there.
Well, let's turn the perception from yourself onto the other players. Because look, you've been sitting with your own thoughts for a few days' time. I'm sure you have plenty of them about the people around you. Let's start with the
Yeah.
positive side of things. Are there people that you're getting good vibes from that you think like best case scenario? I hit the beach with you day one. This is a ride or die for me.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I was just talking about this kind of in my head and to some of the producers here, but I feel like everybody has great vibes this season. Like there's not really
Okay.
anybody here who's just throwing me off where it's like that's going to be a person we need to steer away from. Everybody seems really chill. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's in good nature. Now I know the game hasn't started yet, and people are gonna stab you in the back in a couple of days. But right now it seems like it's pretty chill. But I do have a couple. I would say if I get tribed up with, I think that we'll connect immediately. So I have a few people in mind.
Describe them to me if you can.
Yeah, well, there's a couple. I'd say there's one guy here who's pretty athletic too. We obviously we can't talk, but there's a couple situations where we just laughed at a few things together and just kind of were looking at certain situations and you could tell we were on the same page about what was going on and what we were laughing about. There's another girl here as well who also now this might be very, very, very minor, but I already told myself I was going to do this. If there was anybody else here who had locks like I did, I was immediately going to make that one of the things to turn us
There we
into
go. Long hair,
friendship.
do care, do want to work
Yeah,
with you.
exactly. And I already got our tribe name. We're gonna be locked in, so it's already like we're good to go. So I'm just ready to like work with her if I can. But there's just a lot of amazing people. There's another woman here who just has a very infectious smile. Like it just seems like she's genuinely happy just at everything. I mean, when I tell you she smiles at everything. It doesn't matter. Her water can fly across the table. She's just smiling, chasing it down the block. Like she's smiling at everything. And I just feel like that type of energy you'll like in this situation because you're out here in the middle of nowhere with nothing. Like you need something to be happy about and keep your mind in a positive. And I think people with that infectious type of, mindset, I think it's all on you.
So you mentioned Tony beforehand. Are you going to have a similar approach, maybe not to Spy Shacks, but to like idols, advantages, maybe even journeys? They're big in the new era. Are they going to be big in your game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not shutting down anything. I mean, I don't care if it's beware advantages. I'm looking for every and anything that could give me an advantage in the game. I feel like I need it to your point. I think that I am going to be a bit of a threat as soon as the green light goes. I think everybody's going to be looking at me like, hey, watch out for this guy. So any single opportunity I have to give myself a leg up, I'm taking it. So if there's a journey, I want to go on it. If there's a beware advantage, I'm doing it. If I need to look for idols all day, if I got to look at night, I'm looking at night. I'll figure it out. I know he was sneaking out of camp sometimes and doing a bunch of things. So that might be a part of my game as well. So I'm open to everything. I want to win. So I'm not going to leave any stone unturned.
What is the biggest thing you're taking away from Survivor 45 and 46 that you incorporate into your game in Survivor 47?
I'd say something I've seen that was almost like a common theme is people almost made moves too fast. I feel like a lot of people were so quick to turn on their allies or so quick to flop to a different tide for the numbers and different things like that. And I told myself just from watching it, one, not to do that. Like play a safe game when you need to. You get aggressive when it's time to get aggressive. You don't need to get aggressive when there's 11 people left in the game and you're out here shooting your own people out of there. So I feel like that's one thing that I really was just like, what are we doing here? Like people are playing the game almost too fast. So I want to be intentional about the moves that I make. I don't want to just come out here and just make a move for the sake of saying it's a big move, let me make it. I want to make sure that it actually benefits me in the long run. And then lastly, I want to make sure I don't get voted out with an idol in my pocket. 46 was almost ridiculous. I mean, there's so many people who got voted out with idols in their pocket. It almost seemed like it was on purpose at this point. Like nobody wanted to use their idols. So I don't want to be that guy at all.
What would you say is your most controversial Survivor opinion? What's your hottest take about a player, a season, or the show itself?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think almost to the point I just made about things happening too fast. My controversial take is I like the old Survivor better than the new age Survivor. I honestly like the 40-day Survivor better. I feel like you almost had to be more skillful in that game because people really were loyal to each other at that time because you spent so much more time together. And you really actually genuinely was like, I'm not leaving. If these are my three the whole time. So it really took some negotiating and some convincing to get somebody to flop. Like you really had to have a skill set to get someone to do that. Now it's all about the numbers, right? It's all about the numbers. So if you have the numbers on your side, it's like, hey, we got 5, you got 4. And they're like, okay, all right, I'm going with you guys. So it's not as, I feel like, skillful in a way. It's a little more strategic in the way that you're counting the numbers, but it's not so much skillful in the way that you have to interact with the players and use the emotional aspect of the game to your advantage or disadvantage. So I feel like that was a big part of Survivor that brought me in, was the fact that you really had to build those relationships to get people to maybe do something they otherwise wouldn't have done.
Now, that's interesting because you had talked about your superhero power being this ability to connect with people socially and that your social game would be the strongest part of your game. So does that worry you a little bit that if you feel like the new era is more numbers oriented, that might put you at a disadvantage?
Absolutely. I think about it every day. I'm just hoping that my power is strong enough that it can hold off of that. I think there is still an emotional aspect of this game. I think some people maybe don't take advantage of the opportunities where it's almost downtime, where you're not just talking strategy all the time. They're not really taking advantage of those opportunities to really just talk about life. And I think I'm really big on that because I'm going to be big in just living in the moment here. I'm happy to just be here. Obviously, I want to win, but with me not even supposed to be alive right now, my whole mindset on everything is just different. So I just want to look, I want to hear people's stories. I want to know who people are in real life because I feel like that is going to be what stops someone from writing your name down as opposed to you saying, hey, we have 5 and you have 4. So I think that's a big part of it.
Lastly, if you could
Yeah.
pick a fictional character or a celebrity to bring
Mm.
out as a loved one, who are you picking and why? Are you mixing work and pleasure? You're bringing out an NFL legend?
That might be, that's a good one. That's a good one. And now that you say that, you know what? I think I might have to go with my guy Tyreek Hill. I have to go with Tyreek Hill. I would bring him out just because He is one of the funniest people I've had the opportunity to be around. He's really energetic. He has good energy all the time. He's a supreme athlete. And I think like all of those aspects I see in him in real life, I think that I can kind of bring that over to the game. So I think somebody like him coming in and just saying, giving me a pep talk on how to handle this and just go and be dominant and be me. I think that would be amazing to have on my side for sure.
He'd have his own interesting loved ones as well.
Oh, he would. He would. He would.
Well,
He would.
Well, I'm excited for you to race like a cheetah through this game, man. It seems
Sure.
like, again, your story is awesome, and like you said, the fact that like in another world you wouldn't even be here right now in general, let alone on Survivor, shows how much you're just willing to like take every opportunity that comes your way, and that's what this game is all about, man. So I'm ready for you to land a TKO TK
Hey,
on your competition, and this was such a great time to get to chat and get to meet with you.
amazing. Yeah, it was an amazing time. Great conversation. You actually gave me some great thinking points here. So I'm going to be mulling over those things when I'm sitting here looking at the beach.
when you win, I want to be in your acceptance speech, just putting it out there.
Absolutely. 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 You will be. I promise that.
Well, it was so great getting to chat with you, man. I know you're probably on pins and needles right now waiting for the big day to happen, but I wish you nothing but the best, not only in the days leading up to it, but obviously the days that are to come. And yeah, I hope everything's going well with you, man. So nice getting to chat with you.
Appreciate it. You as well. We'll see you soon.
All right, Mike, there you go. There's TK, and should be an exciting player.
I loved getting the chance to talk with him. And it's not just because at the end he's like, I'm going to incorporate some of your stuff into my gameplay.
Yes.
Flattery will get you everywhere, TK. This instance is no different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Loved ones visit. Tyreek Hill, you said it'll be an interesting family visit. He's like, yeah, oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, listen, it put Winners at War family visit to shame. I'll just say that much. Fiji Airways might have to book out an entire plane.
Yeah. Noted, great guy, Tyreek Hill. So, Mike, yeah, I think that TK is going to be interesting to watch. He wants to play like Tony. He, again, when we're talking about, like, how do people, like, ignore this person? How could they? This great personality, radiating positivity, and a bigger guy. Felt Caleb played too passively. He's going to be a more aggressive playing than Caleb.
Yeah, which is maybe not one of the lessons to take, considering that the reason why he gets in so much doo-doo at the merge is because Bruce said, oh, he's way too aggressive right now with his charm offensive.
I mean... And it's so interesting. And look, and maybe that's sort of like the zigging when everybody zags of like where I think that a lot of us came away from watching Caleb in season 45. Like Caleb needed to do more to like hide. He's like, no, Caleb should have been more out in front calling the shots.
Yeah, I mean, listen, TK obviously takes a look around and knows that a lot of eyes are going to be on him, especially as he said, when the light turns green. I'm not sure if the merge buff is green, but once they hit the individual game, he is going to immediately get looked at as a big physical presence. And so that's when he's kind of hoping, maybe that's where he's talking about kind of the aggressive charm offensive is like, well, then I'm going to be super smooth and super social, really lean in on that aspect. So they ignore the fact that I am physically stacked compared to the rest of this cast. The problem is that would arguably make him an even bigger target because it's like, okay, now it's not like a Jonathan where his social game is not great. Now he has both.
In fairness to Q, I think that Q had a lot of things working for him last season where he did have like more aggressive gameplay style. And for a while it was working, and it wasn't until the point where he said, hey, vote me out, where people were like, all right, enough of this. We're not doing this again. And so that, could be something where if everybody is like, I'm not going to make big moves, I'm going to let other people go out in front. I do think that there is a lane for somebody to come in and sort of like be the person who is dictating what's going to go on a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, speaking with TK, God, he just radiates such good energy. Like you mentioned, he is so positive. He is so, laughing all the time. I mean, I think his headspace is really great as well. He has this super wild story about obviously being able to survive. 3 doctors told him that he wouldn't live past the age of 15. And so he really is approaching this opportunity with kind of a YOLO perspective.
YOLO.
Of like, listen, I'm not even supposed to be here, let alone playing a survivor. And I think the way he just comes across in talking with him is really going to endear him to a lot of people early on. Plus, as per usual, especially in the new era, the idea of tribe strength is going to keep him in a very good position. I think to your point, it's going to come down to, can he find people that, again, despite all of these big warning signs as to why TK could be a big threat in the end for various reasons, he's got to find those people that do want to work with him, that would take him to the end. I mean, to be candid, I think Asia would be somebody that might do that. That would probably take a TK a little bit farther than what we saw of Hunter, for instance, who ends up finishing in 10th. And I could see this as a really interesting link up as well if they both make the merge together.
She said that she's looking for somebody to be like a younger brother to her out there. I mean, I think they're pretty close in age, but I think that maybe TK could fit in that role. That he talked about the woman who's also locked in with him. So feels good about Asia there. He said there's a guy that he feels good about.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure about that because it's all about, they sit next to me during all of these orientation meetings. I don't really have the seating chart at Ponderosa, but he does mention.
They should give that to you.
Yeah, I think that should be some extracurricular material. But I do think that, he's talking about like a gentleman that is a little bit bigger as well. So that might be a Sam, that might be a Saul. Unfortunately, they're sort of split off between tribes at this point. But as we mentioned before, also Sue, Tiyana, both flagged him very positively as well. So as we sort of segue into talking about Tuku in general, you can't spell Tuku without TK. And I think TK will be as safe in the tribe as those two letters.
Okay. Mike, his hot take. The older seasons of Survivor might be better.
All right,
than the newer ones. Whoa.
Eliza Orleans.
Get my oven mitt out for that one.
Eliza Orleans has her favorite of the season pegged right now. I mean, I think it's less about that. And it's really interesting the way he couches, even less so the number of days and what old school Survivor is, right? Of like, it's back in the day, it was harder and arguably more skillful to flip people than it is now.
That's what I hear. So I think that an interesting takeaway for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's interesting, though, is that he does then follow up that question by talking about how he does kind of want to lock in with a group, a loyal group for a while, and then maybe make some moves down the line, which, again, makes sense from his perspective, is that I think he's probably looking to come across as a meat shield and get in with some people early on and ride that as far as he can, because otherwise he'll be first looked at once the game really turns individual. So it is interesting to see him carry forward those ideas from old school Survivor. I don't necessarily agree that like the new era is all about the numbers, that we have 5 and you have 4. I think the Reba 4 is like one of the rare exceptions where that was the case. If anything, I feel like the new era is much more about like chaos and grabbing as many numbers as you can any round you can.
Right. I think it is about numbers in terms of like, let's put together a number of people as opposed to like sticking to our numbers. All right. So, Mike, now that we've talked about everybody here from Tuku, that could we sort of start to put together a little bit of how we think this tribe is going to gel?
Yeah. So I do think that this, to me, is probably the most Siga-like of the 3 tribes. It's giving Siga because, again, it feels very vibey to me. In particular, I see a group of 4 forming of Sue, Kyle, Tiyana, and TK. I think all of them have this
Kyle. Sorry, I have everybody on my index cards here. Sue, Kyle, Tiyana, TK. So you feel that? So you feel like that Caroline and Gabe could be the people that are on the outs.
The way I'm thinking about it is, first off, I'm going off of preseason perceptions. Sue has flagged TK. Tiyana has flagged TK. Tiana's been flagged by Kyle, we think. So I think that these 4 are going to naturally gravitate towards each other. And I think they're all personable enough where it doesn't feel like we're going to have an immediate, 2 battering rams instance, at least from the jump. And I feel like, again, if the general ruling motto of this tribe is like, hey, we're all just going to hang out together, work on the shelter, etc. Let's game when the opportunity comes. Then someone like Caroline, who admittedly might be a little blunt, and someone like Gabe, who is already coming in looking to make his mark on the new era, which assumingly comes with a lot of gaming, would kind of stick out like a sore thumb. in that regard. Now, all that being said, if there is enough of a win streak, then I think those two might be able to, get some key one-on-one relationships to maybe break that up. But that's how at least I'm initially seeing things shaking out.
Yeah, I think that that's as good as anything. I do feel like that maybe Caroline could be the person in the most danger coming out. All right, Mike, we are so close to the Survivor 47 premiere. We've still got a lot to do, including the, of course, much ballyhooed Rob is a podcaster draft.
Yes.
I want to make sure that you don't miss it. You got to subscribe to the podcast. robisawebsite.com/subscribe. Only Survivor superfans only, okay? It will not work if you do not love Survivor in your heart. So the only way to find out if you're a true Survivor fan is by clicking the subscribe button.
Wow.
It doesn't take if you do not truly love Survivor in your heart, it won't work.
I got to take with Keyshawn about that does it take phrase.
You think I'm joking? I'm not.
Rob knows his stuff. Again, 18th season covering this.
Try it. It won't work. It won't work if you don't have love for Survivor in your heart, okay?
True.
All right.
28th season, I should say. Wow, I cannot believe 28th season, Rob.
Yep. And then Wednesday night, of course, the big premiere of Survivor 47. Mike, what's coming up for you?
Well, first off, I want to give a massive thanks, sort of bookend the way we started all of these things off with a thanks to, of course, CBS for granting me the opportunity and setting everything up technology-wise to have me lead these contestants, albeit, through the connection of a computer, to everyone that has responded, shared all of the interviews, both in written, audio, and video form. Of course, to these contestants for opening up and letting me get the chance to talk with you as you were sitting on pins and needles days before you were entering this adventure of a lifetime with $1 million at stake. I had so much fun getting to talk up to this cast and about this cast with you, Rob. I always relish this time when we just do this mad dash where we get to give just our random takes that will almost always be wrong about how these people
Not
are
always.
going to do. Not always, exactly. Listen, broken clocks, etc. But you're a beautifully decorated clock at that, Rob. And I'm so happy that I got to check in with you as we get to do every season. And I cannot wait to see what happens. So as the season starts, I'll be doing my usual beat. I'll be interviewing the contestants every week over at parade.com. I'll be doing the B&B with Liana Boris on the weekends. And I believe also at this point, either has just released or soon to be released. I did an interview with Jeff prior to this season where he talks about some of the things that was in their mind in preparation for 47. I mentioned some of it on our kickoff special, as well as looking ahead to the casting process for season 50 as well, if you want to tease of that. So you can follow everything I'm doing at a Mike Bloom type. And thank you, Rob, as always, for bringing the lovely takes.
Thank you, Mike. Incredible job talking with all these contestants. We have so much fun every preseason. And so until we get together for Survivor 48, that's going to wrap up our Survivor preseason interview series. And so, of course, we love to hear from you two in the comments. Thanks so much for everybody who checked out all of these interviews here over these last 9 days. Enjoy the premiere. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.